Hi folks, in this video I will be making a statue of Jean Grey from the X-Men. Now this is by LA Figures. I've printed it in 1/8 scale and I used water washable resin. So normally I like to start the video showing the model assembled but unpainted. It's not really been possible this time around because a couple of the pieces, they're kind of, once you put them together, they're not going to come apart again easily. So I'm basically put everything on sticks on little crocodile clips. And this actually shows you just how many pieces are in this model. The base has quite a few pieces, there's a lot of rocks that are separate, and in fact I've still got a couple of pieces down here which I ran out of the crocodile clips. These are a couple of shoulder pads and another part of the base. So this should be a good fun model to paint. Let's get cracking. Now I'm going to start this model on the skin tones. So to do that I've used some Chikara Orange and I've mixed it about 50-50 with Deck Tan. Now what this does is give a nice sort of peachy type colour, which is a nice foundation for skin. So I'm just going to use this on both the hands and also the face. And you can see it goes on quite nicely. Now all the pieces have been primed using grey, which just helps us with these type of light colours. I see people using black primer a lot and I always wonder why. They just make life a lot more difficult for themselves doing that. So that's the kind of colour I want to go for. Now I'm going to follow those skin tones with a wash of Rhiclone Flesh Shade, but this is quite strong, so I've actually watered it down to about 1/3 Flesh Shade, 2/3 water, and just a case of applying this all over the skin and making sure it doesn't pool too much. This is just going to sort of give a tint really more than anything. We're going to now do a dry brush using Cadian Flesh Tone. I'm going to do this all over those skin tones. And that's how it's looking after that dry brush. So I'm pretty happy with the skin tones so far. What I want to do is something I haven't tried before, and I'm going to give her a little bit of black eyeshadow. So I'm just going to use some soft pastel for this. And hopefully I won't go too over the top. I think subtlety is needed here. Next up I'm going to paint in the lips, and for that I've just mixed a drop of Screamer Pink with some Squid Pink just to make a slightly more purpley pink. So I've jumped ahead a couple of steps. I have obviously painted in the lips as you just saw. I've also put a bit of black on the top eyelashes, and I've put a wash of what did I use? Wash Druchii Violet over the lips. I painted in white into the eyes and also just did a dab of Rhiclone Flesh Shade in each of those eyes as well. So I'm ready to now start painting in the eyebrows. So I'm just going to take some Mephiston Red and just do these, get it in focus, and just do lots of soft strokes across. Then I'm going to just feather in some Parasite Brown just to break that up so it isn't just pure red. Okay, so here comes the part that everyone dreads, is painting in the eyes. So I am going to do this off camera. I'm going to use medium olive green to paint in the green eyes, and then I'm just going to do a black pupil and then a dot of white in the corner of each eye to do the reflectiveness. So very simple. At this scale, as I said, it's only 1/8 scale, so you don't have to go super detailed because you're simply just not going to see it. And here we are with the eyes all finished. It's then on to Magic Blue to paint in all the blue parts of the suit. Next up is a touch of Zimmer Blue by Green Stuff World, and this is for the symbol on the top here. And then a touch of Macragge Blue just around the seam at the bottom here. Helps if I have some actual paint on my brush. There we go. Now for the hair, I'm going to use Mephiston Red. Now I painted the hair in one solid piece because it wasn't really the sort of thing you can hollow out. But what I did do to make life easy for the painting stage is actually drill a hole here so I can at least pin it when it's drying and that type of thing. Taking some black, I have thinned this down into a wash, so put a whole lot of water into it to make that, and I'm going to throw this wash all over the hair. Make sure it gets into all the crevices. Now that that wash is dried, I'm going to go back over that with a dry brush of that Mephiston Red. That is then followed up with a dry brush using Parasite Brown. And then one final dry brush using Troll Slayer Orange. And here is a quick look at the head and hair now all attached. For the wrists and also for the shoulder plates, I'm going to use a metallic blue. So this is some Elven Armour from Army Painter. So I've not used this blue before, so I'm not sure how thin it will be. Yeah, it's pretty thin. Most metallics are, but it's a nice colour. So I reckon at least 2 coats, possibly 3, to give some nice coverage. I also used that metallic blue across the belt, and now all I need to do is take some black and red and just paint in the symbol. I've thinned down a little bit of Cantor blue, which is the darkest blue I've got, and I'm just going to use this to run it into the recess of each of the lines on the metallics. So I'm going to repeat that process on the arms and also the belt. So for the bulk of her costume, you've got a choice really on what colours you want to do. Over the years, Jean Grey has been everything from sort of a bright yellow to a dark orange. I was reading comics, well, I still do, and I've been reading them since the 90s. So for me, when I think of sort of Jean Grey in this classic outfit, I think of a deeper orange to the colour. So to that end, I have mixed up a 50-50 deep yellow and Parasite Brown. Now what that does is give me a sort of a dark, dirty-ish orange. So let me just get some on my brush. And this is going to be quite a thin paint because both of those colours are pretty thin. But that's okay, we can just build up those layers. So just sort of concentrate on the side parts and also the legs. So it'll take a few passes of this colour, but for me this is a fairly close match to what I sort of think of when I think of Jean Grey's outfit. Next I'm going to take some Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown wash. I'm going to run it into all the recesses of that orange. So for example along here. And it just creates a bit more shadow and depth. I've already done it across the legs, so that's where we are with that. You can see it makes quite a big difference, so it's worth doing. Take your time and you get a nice result. It is then back to that electric blue again. Now she's starting to come together, but what I want to do now is take some black pastel and just work it into some of the recesses to give it a bit of shading. So it's not an awful lot on this model to do, and I'm going to do this and do the legs, and then once I've done that, that is the body of the figure completely finished. Moving on to the base, I'm going to start with the swirly sort of effect, and to do that I'm going to use some Screamer Pink for my initial base colour, and then I'm going to build up from there. You could of course print this in some sort of translucent resin, but personally I'm not too much of a fan of that effect. I think when the rest of the model is painted, having sort of semi-translucent plastic doesn't quite look right to me, but each to their own. I'm going to follow that with a dry brush using Pink Horror. Next up is a dry brush using some Squid Pink. Finally, using some Titanium White, it's one last dry brush. And then just finally, I've gone off and sprayed it with a nice satin varnish, just to give it a slight reflective look, and to separate it out from the rocky base. For the rocky part of the base, I'm going to start with a warm grey from Pro Acryl. I'm just going to do a dry brush across the whole piece. So the next step after I've applied that grey dry brush is to throw some washes over this. Now you can make up your own washes, but I'm being a little bit lazy and I'm just going to use some that I've got pre-made from Sistel. So all you need to do basically is grab a bunch of colours that you think would help with rocks. So I've gone for a sepia shade, an orange, believe it or not, orange on rocks is quite common, Athenian camo shade, so a green, and a brown with the earth shade. So all you need to do is basically shake each one, make sure it's all nice and mixed up. Grab yourself a brush. I can do better than that. Let's grab this one instead. And just basically start to slap it on any way you like. Now, good thing with this is you can't really go wrong. There's no hard or fast rules doing this. What you need to do is just make sure that you pretty much cover most of the base. So let's slap on some brown here. And when you start to run out, just grab another colour. Let's go for this Cassandra, not Cassandra. Yellow, and start throwing this on as well. So you can see bit of a difference there in the colour tones, and you just want to make sure that you pretty much cover most of the base with all these different colours, and yeah, give it a long time to dry, and it should give you some nice tonal changes. That is then followed with a dry brush using some neutral grey. Alright, so that is all of the base components done, including the separate little rocks that have to be glued in. I've just painted those the exact same way I did the rocky base. Everything is all ready to go, so time to now glue it all together, and I will come back and show you the finished model. So here she is, and she is all finished. So quite pleased with this model. It's another banger from LA Figures. They always do good work. I'm pleased with the colour choices I did. I think the sort of darker orange is definitely the right way to go for me personally. I also like the use of metallic blue on the armour and around the belt. I think it gives it a little bit more of a pop. I think probably what I could have done slightly better, I think I would have liked to have brightened this up a little bit more, even though I sort of took it up to a white. Looking at it overall, I think there is still quite a lot of sort of darker colours here. I could have taken the intensity up a little bit more. And similarly, I think with the rocks, although I like the contrast of the dark to the light, they're a little bit sort of boring looking, so I could have done a little bit more there. But on the whole, it's not too bad. I think obviously your main focus is always going to be the actual figure itself. So what I'll do now is I'll bring in the other couple of X-Men characters that I've also done by LA Figures, just to give you a comparison. But before I do that, I would just like to finish the video by saying thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all the support. If you could subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.